Alright guys, welcome to my team review for the 2021 AFL fantasy season. Really looking forward to the season commencing, starts in a couple days time, and we've watched players over the AMI series and seen how they've played, especially rookies. Not taking too much on the premiums, but seeing how rookies have played, the positions they've played, and we sort of get an insight to whether their job security is solid and how they're scoring. So that was really good from the AMI series, as well as the practice scratch matches. Those were really good. But this is my team post AMI series. We got 16,000 in the bank, which is not great. I was hoping to have a bit more just in case, one of my players failed in round one and then I could switch him out. But strategy wise, probably going to be holding premiums throughout the season unless they go through a really bad patch of form. So players like Doherty, if he does have a poor round one, or even like a Dangerfield if he does have a poor round one, stay strong with your premiums. Don't go trading them out if they've had one bad performance. But I think the main thing is in the early rounds is that you want to be fixing up your rookies and getting the right rookies playing, because that then leads to the cash generation, which is vital towards the back end of the season when you're trying to max out your team. But let's talk about my team now. As you probably watched my last video, lots of changes have been made. So normal Jake Lloyd, didn't see him in the AMI series, so I'm a bit concerned that he didn't play the AMI series, which is why we're sort of off him at the moment. I still think he'll be the #1 defender this year, but I think Rory Laird is a suitable candidate for D1. He's cheap, he's got a bit of money to be made, and he's the #1 Crows midfielder playing inside mid, which is really good. Whereas Jake Lloyd, we didn't see him throughout the AMI series. We don't know how he's going to really score this season. We do know that he is a great fantasy player from his previous seasons, but just not playing that AMI series turns me off him a bit, as well as his really high price. So we're starting off with Rory Laird this season as our D1, and I believe he'll be one of the top 3 defenders this year. Should average above 105, if not much more, playing that inside mid role, which I'm really looking forward to. Tom Stewart is D2. Geelong play Adelaide Crows round 1 if you haven't taken a look at the fixture already. So it's going to be an absolute bloodbath for all the defenders. Tom Stewart and Jordan Clark should both have good games. I'm expecting both of them to go above 90. And Tom Stewart, he's been a premium defender for the last couple of seasons now, and he's one of those players that sort of goes under the radar each season. And he's definitely a top 6 defender. Is he worth starting? Personally, it's up to you. I just really like the matchup with Adelaide Crows round 1, and I don't think you can go wrong choosing Tom Stewart, so that's why we picked him up. Also, he's got a good couple of fixtures after that game, so should be good, and he's a top 6 defender, so I like Tom Stewart at the moment. Then Sam Doherty is D3. He played really well in the AMI series without getting noticed too much. Looked really good, and we've seen what he can do in the past where he's averaged well above 115. So if he can somewhat get to 105 plus standards, which he's definitely capable of, he's bound to make a lot of cash, which is good. And we know he has a great ceiling and he can score well, so that's good. As well as having Richmond round 1, which also improves his scoring because Richmond are quite an easy team to score against. So I think Stewart, Doherty, and Clark all have easy round 1 opponents, which sort of contributes to the reason why I've picked them up in my team. But saying that, they're all great players who can really score well. Jordan Clark, we saw probably one of the best, if not the best, for Geelong in that AMI series game. I think he scored above 120 without playing one quarter, so he could have gone 150 plus. But he was taking kick-ins along with Stewart and Doherty, who were also taking kick-ins. So Jordan Clark and Stewart both taking kick-ins, which is positive signs. And he was playing that wing role, which I'm hoping he can, cement his spot. His job security is a bit iffy at the moment, Jordan Clark. But hopefully playing Adelaide round 1, he can show what he's got and cement his spot in the side and hold that wing role. We know that Mitch Duncan's coming back soon, so I'm hoping he stays on that wing role, and that's where he scores best. Then Hayden Young, his job security is a bit iffy as well. I'm hoping he plays round 1, should play round 1. He took a lot of the kickouts for Fremantle, and they really like the ball in his hands, got a shit ton of disposals, so Hayden Young and Jordan Clark are sort of 2 players that their job security is a bit iffy, but if they do have good round 1s, they can definitely cement their spot in their team. So those are two players that I'm really keen on, making a lot of cash and scoring well this season. And then Highmore, Kosicki, and Briggs all played relatively well in the Amy series. So hopefully they get named round one. Obviously, with the new rule that teams be announced the day before the game, that's going to be a bit annoying, but I'm hoping that those three players will play. Going into our midfield now, Merritt M1, probably the best for Essendon on ground in that Geelong game. They got close to winning, but sadly couldn't get over the line. But Zach Merritt was best on ground. He looked really good, and I think he's cemented that inside mid role. We saw last season he was a bit all over the place, but yeah, just hoping he keeps that inside mid role and tends a lot of centre bounces. That'll be good. Jack McRae M2. We thought that he'd be pushed out onto more of a wing role. Obviously, Treloar didn't play that game, so it'll be interesting to see where McRae gets played while Treloar's in the team. Personally, I think Dunkley will get pushed more outside and play more forward. And Treloar will play more inside mid with McRae, Bont, and Libber. But McRae looked absolutely sensational, and it's hard to go past a player like McRae when he's got such a high ceiling. And you just don't want to miss out on those points when he does go big and capitalises. So McRae and Merritt both have incredibly high ceilings, and we know what great fantasy players they've been in the past. So I really like those two players at the pick. Dangerfield, Adelaide Crows round one, looked really good in the Amy series. Played all over the place, bit up forward, bit inside mid, bit back. But the role was there. He was attending plenty of centre bounces, which is good, and I like him as a pick. Sam Walsh was alright in the Amy series, wasn't really outstanding, but premiums don't really try. I think Sam Walsh will be a top 8 mid this year. Towards the end of last season, I really liked the way he played and went about his footy. He was tackling, taking marks, and getting lots of disposals. So I think that Sam Walsh, if he can manage to get his tackles up and take marks and look for the ball in his hands, he'll have a really good season and could average potentially above 105. Tim Taranto is a lock in most people's teams. Absolute jet. Looked amazing in the Amy series, playing inside mid, a bit up forward, but attended plenty of centre bounces, which is good. And he looks set to go. And Powell also looked pretty impressive for North Melbourne. Didn't attend a single centre bounce, but he was really impressive. Downey, Goulden were both pretty good as well in the Amy series. Valente and Brockman on the bench were pretty solid. Don't think Valente played, I'm not too sure to be honest. But he's one that'll certainly get a game this year, I'm confident. He should get a game this year, so we'll see how he goes. But yeah, just a couple of rookies in the midfield. Hopefully they all get named round one so they can make a bit of cash. But it'll be interesting to see how it changes off here as the teams are named, the day before the actual game. Whether it'll cause a lot of chaos, whether it'll stop coaches from picking Carlton, or Richmond players because they want to, have the money to switch out rookies and stuff like that. But we'll see. Ruck's pretty self-explanatory. Gordon Grundy, top 2 rucks. Riley O'Brien was in consideration for a long part of my season, but I just feel that Gordon Grundy is the way to go. Set and forget. You don't have to worry about them for the rest of the year, those two. And then Flynn on the bench. Should have a good season. Number 1 ruck for GWS at the moment because of all their injuries. So it should be good to go. And the forward line is where I've gone pretty light. Tom Phillips had a great Amy series, playing inside mid, a bit off the wing. Looked pretty good, so he's a lock in my team. Nick Hine was also pretty good before getting injured. I think him off half back. Essendon need a new player that can run fast and has good ball skills. I think Hine provides that and should make a lot of money. So him and Tom Phillips are bound to make a bit of cash. And same goes with Tom Atkins, who was playing half back. I really like his role, although he scored around 80, which is pretty impressive. But the main thing there was the role, and that's sort of why we watched the Amy series, to see where players are playing. So Tom Atkins was playing, half back, and he looked really good. Got a lot of disposals. His tackle numbers weren't too high, neither were his marks, but his disposal numbers were really high, which is good. So he, along with Dangerfield, Clark, and Stewart, play round 1. So I've got a lot of cat players, but I'm confident that they'll score really well. And then Campbell, Warner, and Bergman all had pretty impressive debuts, especially Warner. When I say he looked really impressive. Campbell was also pretty good, and so was Bergman, but Warner was probably the standout out of those 3. And then Rowe on the bench and Jones, they should both hopefully get named round 1 and play. as well as Paul Hunter. I'm sort of tossing up between Paul Hunter and Lloyd Meek at the moment. I think they're both viable options, but I think Hunter in the long run will be a bit better. I'm feeling like Meek plays Gorn round 1, so he's most likely to get dropped after that, especially with like someone like Sean Darcy coming in. But that's how our team's looking like at the moment. I've also been considering a couple other players. Um, so we've gone with Howe, Brody, and Zeeble. Those are the other three I've been probably considering. So if I do make any changes, it would probably be one of those three players. But at the moment, I'm pretty happy with how the lineup's looking. It looks pretty well balanced, apart from the forward line a bit where I've gone quite a few cheap players and rookies. But overall, I think it's a solid looking team. Gorn should probably be captain round 1, and we'll definitely see how we go. Can't wait for the season to commence. So my next video will be after round 1, discussing how I went. So make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys after round 1.